We were taught growing up, don't talk to strangers and don't talk about money. And that's pretty much what sales copywriting is. So no wonder a lot of creatives don't just shoot their hand up in the air when asked if they like to sell. It doesn't always come naturally to us. I'm gonna go ahead and bust one myth here. No, your art does not speak for itself. You need solid messaging in place to get your point across and communicate to your clients and your customers. In this video, I'm gonna bust 7 copywriting myths that are floating around out there. So by the end of this video, you're gonna unlock some secrets to get you on your way to more confidently selling your craft. Hit like if that sounds like a plan to you, and let's get going. Hey there, if we haven't met before, my name is Ashlyn Carter. I'm a conversion copywriter and brand and launch strategist for creative small business owners like you. I pump out videos like this every single Tuesday, so if you want to join the family, which I would love for you to do, and it helps me out so much, hit the subscribe button and the bell next to it below, and you'll be notified when they drop. I'm going to go ahead and jump straight into this. Myth number 1, the shorter, the better. So hit like if you have ever heard or thought some variation of this before, and I gotta say that I'm going to hit the like button too, because I've definitely thought this. But here's the thing, that's a misinterpretation of the concept that is true, that confused customers don't buy, therefore short is equivalent to simple. But the math on that doesn't add up. Clear and simple isn't always equivalent to length. It's like Einstein said, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. Amen. You need to focus on using as many words are needed to communicate the concept and then no more. And sometimes that means a 50-word product description for the calligraphed prints that you sell in your shop. The golden rule here is that the copy needs to be useful in and of itself. It needs to educate, inform, entertain, it needs to be helpful. I think personally it should actually be enjoyable or fun to read. Sorry about my dog. Good copy shouldn't be salesy, it should be a delight to read. Last thing here, you know when you're shopping around at Target and you have that moment where you didn't need something but you definitely added it to your cart? For me, it's usually nail polish. You have it in your cart, you're going back and forth thinking, do I really need this or should I just put it on this shelf over here? Comment below if you know that feeling. It can't just be me, but your copy has to pass those multiple rounds of scrutiny. Think back to a recent buying decision that you made, or even when you were just trying to decide whether to reach out to some vendor that you really wanted to work with, that dream brand photographer, that dream creative director, or website designer, or whatever. You think about it, you go back and forth, you add to cart, you remove from cart, you hem and you haw a little bit. The copy has to do a lot of the heavy lifting to convince you to go ahead and buy it. When in doubt here, remember these 2 things. Number 1, I say it all the time, yes, people still read long copy, people don't read boring copy. And number 2, don't oversell something, but make the copy as long as it needs to be and then no longer. Myth number 2, I sell art, luxury, or beauty, therefore I don't have a problem to agitate. If I had a dime for this one. Because I tend to work with a lot of makers and artists and creatives and people that are in the wedding industry, this comes up all the time for my clients and my students. Let me know below if you've ever felt like this. But here's where at least my hypothesis about where that myth comes from. So if you can explain your clients' problems or emotions better than they can, oh my gosh, you're gonna win every single time. And that is why the problem is usually what we focus on, because it's just so easy to articulate usually. But don't forget, people buy for all sorts of emotional needs or problems. We buy to get clout or praise. We buy to be recognized. We buy to feel loved, to increase status, to save time, to save money, to save energy and effort. We buy to avoid pain. We buy to be healthier, whether that's physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. I'll be like your medicine. You'll take every dose of me. Definitely from Atlanta. Usher, represent. Anyway, Napoleon Bonaparte, he said that there are 2 motives to action: self-interest and fear. And even if you sell beauty, luxury, artistry, craftsmanship, those 2 things are still driving people to buy from you. So takeaway tip here, if the phrase agitate a problem triggers you and makes you feel all icky, then switch that word in your head. Instead of agitate, I want you to think amplify and see if you can amplify what they really want, that emotion that they're going for. And if you still feel manipulative when you're trying to work through and write your own sales copy, then I want you to really think about that person walking away from the beauty, the artistry, the craftsmanship that you offer. If they never get that, if they don't get that, what will they be missing out on? What will they lack? What will they not achieve emotionally? And right from that place. Myth number 3, you have to hire a professional copywriter to get a good product. Okay, so here's the thing. There is the lie out there, I think with creative business owners that you just outsource things you're not good at. That is not always true. Quick story time. When I started my business, I just told myself that I wasn't good at numbers. I never had been. I was always in math coach class in elementary school. I just hated math unless it had to do with marketing data. So I stuck my head under the sand and ignored my numbers. We had profit, revenue was coming in. I thought it was all gonna go away, so just didn't pay myself the first year in business. I didn't know my numbers. But no, just because I don't like numbers didn't mean that I get a free pass to ignore things like knowing revenue or cost for my overhead or anything like that. I have to know that. Your messaging, your copywriting is so similar. Think about Shark Tank if you watch that show. Every single time the entrepreneur goes on there, what are they talking to the sharks about? Well, they're communicating their numbers, their profit margins, all that kind of stuff, and they're pitching them. They're giving them exactly why they should invest in this and explaining clearly what their product does and who it's for. And that's on the CEO. This may be weird to say because I am a copywriter. I have an entire copywriting agency side to my business, but nobody can write your copy quite like you can because nobody's in the position that you are in. You know your story better than anybody. You know exactly why you do what you do better than anybody. I tell my students, if you can't tell me why you do what you do the way you do it differently or better than somebody else who does the same thing or does the same thing and charges less, we need to camp out here. Because I do think about the first 3-ish years in business, you should be writing your own copy. You need to be testing where the offer lands, tweaking different things. A lot of the more higher end packages that my agency side of my business offers, those people have been writing their own copy for a long time. It's okay to hire a copywriter, but you need to bring them in for specialty things. Obviously, I definitely think it's okay to hire copywriters, but you need to at least know enough to be able to tell if it's working or not and bring in that copywriter to be a specialist. Famed copywriter Gary Halbert said, the few of us who really can do it, write copy that sells, are so much in demand that you can't even think about hiring us unless you're willing to spend an arm and a leg, and even then, you'll still have to wait in line. Your job as the marketer behind your business is to present your reader, your ideal client or customer with a pile of proof, and I promise you can do a good job of that. I'm gonna be over here ready to give you the tools and the resources and everything that you need to get started with that. If one thing that would help you out right now is a little refresh of your website copy, then look down below. I have my Google Docs website copywriting template to get you started. Myth number 4, people think that a marketer is out to separate a fool from his money. Okay, sorta, kinda, but here is the not so secret. People like to buy things. Hello, we have a budgeting problem, a credit card debt problem. We like to stand at our window and wait for the Amazon delivery guy to show up with whatever it is that we ordered. And even in this crazy new kind of uncertain climate, especially for small business owners with coronavirus going around, the fact that we like to buy things is a bit of human psychology that I don't think is gonna change. I mean, think about how excited you get when you save up and you finally get the thing that you've wanted so badly. People just don't like to be sold to or pitched, and if you can frame your messaging in a way that lets people understand that you're helping them get what they want, then that's going to be so powerful. Side note here, note that people usually buy what they want, not what they need, so keep that in mind. And keep in mind that it is about them, not about you. I know you've heard that before, but let me ask you this. If right now we went over to your website and I opened up your services page, would I think that that page is about me, your ideal client or customer, or would I feel like I have a ticket to the me show all on your services page? Myth number 5, you can Madlib things out there in your swipe copy file and make it work. AKA the, if it worked for her, then it'll probably work for me lie. I could probably get it tattooed on my forehead at this point. I say it a lot. You've probably heard me say it, but best practices are nothing but pooled ignorance if you're not testing them. You have to test things because what works for your people and your niche and your story and your offer is gonna probably be different than whatever else is out there. Best practices are a good rule of thumb to start with, but you have got to try things with your own people. One of the best things you can do as a creative is to start up some kind of swipe file. I call it a copy bank, and my Copywriting for Creative students know I talk extensively about this. Pocket any sales message out there that has gotten you to click, gotten you to buy, gotten you to download, or whatever it is. Swipes like these in formulas, I have an entire blog post on formulas below. Those are a great place to start, but they just tell you the order of the message. They don't exactly tell you what to write. You still have to figure that out. And if you're just screenshotting someone else's ad and then using it and Madlibbing it to say what you want to say, you're really just stabbing in the dark. Although Dale Carnegie said, when you're dealing with people, remember you're not dealing with creatures of logic, but creatures of emotions. We tend to sell like we like to be sold to. I am a super logical buyer to the point that I don't think I've ever bought anything unless it was like $11.59 on the day that the cart was closing on it. I will hem and haw and pro and con until the cows come home. Maybe you're like me, but maybe you're a more emotional buyer and you tend to decide very quickly and definitively about what it is that you want, and you buy it with your heart and back it up with your head. Maybe you're more of an emotional buyer and it's the story and the future pacing of it all that really sells you on that, and you decide pretty definitively right out of the gate emotionally if you want this or not. So your takeaway tip here is go ahead and get that copy bank or swipe file system going. But I also want you to at least start to, hopefully, like I've said this whole video, know enough to be dangerous when it comes to copywriting where you can DIY a good chunk of it. Myth number 6, your about page isn't about you. So I busted this in a video the other week. I will link it below, but it is and it isn't. To make anything about your ideal client or customer, you are gonna have to talk about yourself, but you wanna do it in a way that is a universal story that they can relate to. Again, I'm not gonna say too much here because I've done an entire video on this, but I'll give you a quick tip. You can do a test on this by going to a website page and doing a control find and looking for any word like I or me, we, us, our, and then I want you to do a search for the word you. See what the comparison looks like. And myth number 7, you have to be a poetic, beautiful writer to be a good copywriter. I refer to this as Hemingway or Fitzgerald syndrome. You do not have to be the next Fitzgerald to have good copy. I have worked with thousands of students at this point, and I can truly say that lots of them didn't feel like good writers at first. Copywriting is approached the same way that an engineer approaches building a bridge, Capel said, aka it's assembled, not written. Yes, you want charged, powerful, sometimes poetic language. You want to use proper grammar. You want to flex a solid vocabulary, and another rookie mistake out there is using passive voice instead of active voice. The best way I have to explain that is the "in good times we're had by all" type sentence. The subject of that sentence is being acted on by the verb. Hopefully you can hear that, but I want you to instead try to use active voice. But these are skills you can brush up on and totally do. I've seen it time after time after time after time. If you want to go ahead and get started refreshing some of the copy on your website, don't forget to look down below and grab that Google Docs website copywriting template I have for you below. And if this video made you realize you need to do a little bit of a deep dive into your about page, then be sure to watch the next video I have teed up for you where I'm going to take you through my ART IST copywriting formula.